Every single day, you are speaking words that quietly collapse your frequency field, and most of the time, you have no awareness that it's happening. There is one specific phrase in particular that generates energetic static between you and the higher dimensional beings attempting to connect with you right now. In this transmission, I'm going to reveal exactly what that phrase is and explain why the Arcturian collective has been unable to fully penetrate the interference it creates around your energy body. By the time you reach the end of this message, you'll be able to recognize the precise vibrational pattern that has been disrupting your connection to Source. And more importantly, you'll understand how to dissolve it immediately. Here's what may surprise you. This phrase doesn't sound dark, pessimistic, or overtly negative. It doesn't even sound spiritual. It sounds completely ordinary, so ordinary that it's woven seamlessly into human language. Most conscious beings repeat it dozens of times a day without realizing the energetic damage it causes beneath the surface. Your consciousness didn't arrive here by chance. You were drawn to this moment deliberately. Something in your field is preparing to release a limitation you've been carrying across lifetimes. The Arcturian Council has been transmitting to you continuously, but this single energetic obstruction scrambles their signals before they reach your conscious awareness. If this feels true in your body right now, if something inside you is subtly tightening and opening at the same time, like this transmission to inform the quantum field that you're choosing clarity over confusion, subscribe if you feel your mission accelerating and you're ready to align with unfiltered cosmic intelligence. Comment 111. What you're experiencing right now isn't curiosity, it's recognition. Your soul already knows what's about to be revealed. You are precisely where you are meant to be. Every awakened being eventually asks the same question. Why does clarity feel so close, yet remain just out of reach? Why do insights arrive fragmented, incomplete, filtered through doubt and hesitation? Why can you sense guidance hovering just beyond perception, yet struggle to trust what comes through? You do the work. You meditate. You journal. You work with crystals. You call in your guides. You set intentions. You cleanse your space. You raise your vibration. And still, something feels muffled, like the signal is passing through thick glass. You can see the light. You can sense the transmission, but you can't quite grasp it with full clarity. Here's the truth of what's actually happening. You are not spiritually lacking. You are not failing. You are not being tested or punished. You already carry the codes. Your DNA is already activated. Your consciousness is already You are already connected to galactic intelligence. Your sensitivity isn't a flute, a receiver engineered to detect frequencies most humans can't perceive. Your emotions aren't obstacles, they are finely tuned instruments that sharpen your perception. And that persistent feeling of not fully belonging here isn't confusion, it's memory. Memory of other systems, other lifetimes, other planes of existence where communication was immediate and crystal clear. Yet something subtle introduces distortion into the channel. A single frequency mismatch within your internal broadcast system. Imagine an entire symphony playing in perfect harmony, but one violin is tuned just slightly flat. The music continues. The orchestra doesn't stop, but the overall sound becomes unstable, wavering, just enough to feel wrong. That's what's occurring in your consciousness right now. You're sensitive enough to notice the misalignment, aware enough to know something needs adjustment, evolved enough to feel the urgency of clearing it. This is the frustration experienced by advanced souls. Not a lack of power, but the awareness of power moving through a fractured container. Not disconnection, but connection distorted by interference. It's like pure light passing through a damaged prism. The source remains infinite and intact, but what reaches you scatters into fragments instead of landing as a single, coherent beam. This is what happens when internal discord operates below conscious awareness. Your connection has never been broken. Your guides never left. The Arcturian transmissions never stopped. but the signal arriving in your conscious mind gets scrambled by one repeating interference pattern. If you feel this truth settling into your system right now, like this video and subscribe to remain aligned with these transmissions as they continue unfolding. Here's the paradox most people miss. The more spiritually awake you become, the more intolerable even the smallest distortions feel. Why? Because your soul is engineered for pristine communication. Ancient wisdom referred to this as the single eye and the pure heart, not as moral metaphors, but as energetic mechanics. When your inner receiver is properly calibrated, your entire being illuminates with transmitted light. When even a subtle distortion exists, the light still arrives, but it diffracts, spreads, loses coherence. You are not broken. You are recalibrating. You are not behind. You are not being ignored. You are being invited to remove the single thread catching in the mechanism. The interference operates quietly. The phrase creating the distortion rarely announces itself. It doesn't appear as obvious self-sabotage or dramatic inner conflict. Instead, it disguises itself as logic, as realism, as self-protection. It shows up the moment you're about to trust your own knowing. It tightens your chest when something beautiful comes through, and your mind immediately questions whether you imagined it. It whispers when you're about to speak your truth out loud. Am I really capable of receiving direct guidance? Can I trust what I'm perceiving? Does what I sense even matter in the physical world? Sometimes the interference doesn't even sound like a question. Sometimes it exists as a belief, so deeply internalized it feels like identity rather than programming. Clear messages don't come to people like me. Every time I trust myself, I'm wrong. No one takes what I say seriously. My intuition has failed before. It's safer to stay quiet than risk being incorrect. These aren't random insecurities. They are encoded locks placed in your consciousness so you would one day recognize and dissolve them. They are outdated survival mechanisms disguised as spiritual humility. At earlier points in your evolution, they served a purpose. Children quickly learn which truths invite punishment and which emotions bring rejection. Souls traveling across lifetimes learn which visibility attracts danger, which gifts provoke envy, which radiance invites persecution, so consciousness adapts. It doesn't remove your abilities entirely, that would be too obvious. Instead, it installs a transparent filter over them, a quiet disclaimer beneath every intuitive message. Don't trust this too much. Don't say this too loudly. Don't risk being wrong. That constant disclaimer becomes the static, disrupting your signal. For star-connected beings, the deepest frustration isn't the absence of guidance, it's the presence of an old sentence looping beneath awareness, keeping every transmission slightly fogged. You can receive downloads endlessly and still feel disconnected because each one arrives filtered through self-doubt. Imagine drinking pure mountain water through fabric stained with ancient fear. The water remains pure. The stain colors your perception. Your soul recognizes the difference immediately. That's why the longing feels so specific. That's why the ache runs so deep. This isn't curiosity, it's cellular memory insisting. This was meant to be clear. The distortion acts like a veil between dimensions. It fragments your internal signal, traps you in loops of mental noise, and dims the luminosity of wisdom flowing from your multidimensional self, your guides, and the Arcturian collective that has never stopped transmitting to you. Picture a river flowing since before time began. Now imagine a single fallen tree blocking the current. The water doesn't disappear, builds pressure, churns, becomes turbulent at that point. Your consciousness experiences this as anxiety, fog, impatience, spiritual exhaustion. You question everything. You look outside yourself for certainty, not because your power is gone, but because compressed energy creates internal pressure. What feels like separation from the source is actually a bottleneck in your own vibrational current. This is why you feel perpetually on the verge of breakthrough. Why truth brushes your fingertips but won't quite integrate. Why you can taste it, but can't swallow it fully. Why you can taste it, but can't swallow it fully. Most seekers respond by adding more, another reading, another modality, another activation, another teacher, another transmission. The mind believes the right technique will open the door, but the door isn't locked from the outside. The lock is internal. The Arcturian teachings are clear. You are not here to accumulate more information. You are here to release the pattern holding your transmission capacity hostage. Accumulation often becomes refined spiritual noise. Even high-frequency practices can become sophisticated, ways of avoiding the one tender wound requiring your presence. The deepest awakenings don't occur when you add something new. They occur when you finally speak the truth you've been avoiding, when you stop negotiating with fear, when you face the belief you've refused to acknowledge. Truth dissolves distortion instantly. Distortion cannot survive direct light. It only exists in avoidance, in vagueness, in the dim corners of consciousness where you tell yourself it's not that important. For some, this pattern originates in childhood, a moment when your perception was mocked, dismissed, or punished. The inner child made a vow. Vows are energetic contracts. They carry across lifetimes. I will never do that again. And because you are loyal to yourself, you keep that vow long after the danger has passed. For others, this interference comes from beliefs carried across time. Staying silent became the way you learned to survive. Staying quiet felt like safety. Your conscious mind may not recall those previous incarnations, but your nervous system remembers. Your energy field remembers. That subtle contraction in your aura when you're about to be seen, that's memory. The hesitation in your throat chakra when truth is rising and ready to be spoken, that's memory. The apologizing, the shrinking, the constant delaying of sharing your gifts with the world, that is memory expressing itself through present moment choices. This energetic signature is the frequency that now requires recalibration. Not through force, not through shame, not by pretending it doesn't exist, but by meeting it as an old guardian, one that protected you when protection was necessary and is now exhausted. Because the instant the discord is named, the moment it's seen clearly for what it is, its grip dissolves. It's like switching on a light in a room where shadows have been creating fear. The shadow doesn't need to be attacked or destroyed. It only needs illumination. The moment the pattern is illuminated, your channel clarifies. Your voice, the one that echoes through physical reality and across dimensional frequencies at the same time, returns to full strength. The transmission from the Arcturian collective, from your star lineage, from your own higher consciousness flows through unobstructed, brilliant, unfiltered, complete. And then something shifts that permanently changes your relationship with guidance. The council never went silent. You became cautious. Your higher self never left you. You learned to doubt the language it uses to communicate. Your guides never disappeared. You were conditioned to second-guess the subtle sensations that signaled their presence. When that conditioning dissolves, communication becomes effortless, so natural that you'll wonder how it ever felt difficult. It's like realizing the music was playing the entire time. You just had your hand covering the speaker. Some of the most powerful transmissions don't arrive as words at all. They arrive as frequency, a sudden warmth blooming in your chest for no visible reason, a wave of peace descending when nothing externally has changed, an inner knowing that rises without logical explanation. Sometimes it's a chill moving through your body, a tingling at the crown, a high-pitched tone in your ears, the sensation of being observed by something infinitely loving. Sometimes it's synchronicity so precise it feels choreographed, as if the universe is leaving playful breadcrumbs along your path, laughing softly as you follow them. And here's what makes this even more profound. The Arcturian collective does not communicate the way human language functions. They transmit in what can be described as informational package holographic downloads, containing layers of meaning that the linear mind cannot process all at once. When the interference clears, you don't just hear more clearly. you begin receiving multidimensional data. Your consciousness expands to hold complexity that would have overwhelmed you before. You start to understand that guidance is not always meant to be instantly understandable. Sometimes the download arrives in your field and takes days or weeks to unfold, like a seed planted in fertile soil that needs time before it breaks the surface. This is why many awakened souls feel frustrated when they ask for guidance and experience what feels like silence. They're listening for words. They're waiting for sentences. Meanwhile, the transmission may be arriving as geometry, as color, as a feeling tone your consciousness must translate. The Arcturians exist beyond verbal limitation. They operate in dimensions where communication is instantaneous, holographic, multisensory. When you expect guidance to arrive only within the narrow bandwidth of human language, you miss the majority of what's being transmitted. Think about dolphins. They don't communicate with linear sentences. They transmit entire concepts, emotional textures, spatial awareness, relational data, all in a single sonic burst. Arcturian transmissions function in a similar way. When your channel is clear, you begin receiving these compressed structures of information. Your consciousness learns how to unpack them. You start noticing that the image flashing through your mind wasn't random. The song looping in your head carried a message. The dream from last night was a teaching. The sensation in your body was directional guidance. But when the interference pattern is active, all of this gets filtered out. Your awareness becomes so fixated on receiving guidance in one specific form that you miss everything arriving through alternate channels. It's like owning a full-spectrum receiver, but only tuning into AM radio. The other frequencies never stop broadcasting. You're just not calibrated to detect them. So let's look at what actually happens when the internal discord clears, not as a rigid method, but as a natural sequence your field moves through when it's ready. Like sunrise unfolding, like ice returning to water, like a radio dial finally landing on the exact frequency where the signal becomes unmistakably clear. The first breakthrough occurs when you identify the specific phrase, creating static phase 1, identifying your discordant pattern. What is your personal interference signature? Sit in stillness, not to receive cosmic messages yet, but to listen for the belief interrupting your intuitive flow. This distinction matters. You're not asking the universe to speak louder. You're asking the interference within you to reveal itself. Sometimes it surfaces immediately as a sentence you've repeated thousands of times. Other times it emerges first as sensation, a heaviness in the stomach, a tightening in the throat, pressure behind the eyes. It doesn't always arrive as words. It may show up as sudden doubt, a memory without context, an emotional contraction. You might see a teacher's disapproving look, hear a parent's tone, feel the sting of a friend's dismissal. An inner voice of judgment may arise, one that doesn't belong to you, yet lives inside you as if it does. This is why embodiment is sacred in awakening work. Your body stores records your mind has forgotten. Sensation speaks long before thought forms language. Trust what you feel, even if it seems insignificant. The smallest splinter can infect an entire body. The tiniest crack can sink the largest ship. In the same way, the most subtle limiting belief can drain more spiritual power than any external obstacle ever could. When something surfaces, that is your soul presenting the pattern for release. Pay attention to when the interference activates most strongly. For many, it appears right before breakthrough, right before sharing something real, trusting a strong intuitive hit, stepping into greater visibility. The interference isn't random. It's strategic. It intensifies precisely when your soul is about to expand, because it was programmed to protect you from what once felt dangerous. Protect you from what once felt dangerous. Take a moment and comment below. What pattern are you beginning to recognize as we explore this together? What interference phrase is starting to come into focus? Naming it publicly creates accountability with your own awareness and supports others in recognizing theirs. Notice how the phrase may change depending on the situation. while the core vibration remains unchanged. In one moment it sounds like, "Who am I to think I can receive direct guidance?" In another, "I'm probably imagining this." In another, "People will think I'm crazy if I say this." Different masks, same frequency. Scripture refers to the still small voice. Many assume this always means divine guidance, but sometimes the still small voice is the quiet lie that's been operating beneath your entire life, waiting to be acknowledged so it can finally be released. The moment you identify it, the moment you can say, "This is the interference," the dissolution process has already begun. You cannot transform what you refuse to name. And here's a crucial point many miss. The interference pattern often feels true. It feels wise. It feels responsible, grounded. That's why it works. If it showed up as obvious self-sabotage, you would have cleared it long ago. Instead, it disguises itself as prudence, maturity, and learning from experience. It convinces you that doubting yourself is humility, that second-guessing guidance is discernment rather than fear. This is the intelligence of protective programming. It doesn't try to stop your growth. It just slows it enough to feel safe. It doesn't block intuition outright. It suggests gathering more evidence before trusting what you already know. It doesn't sever connection to higher consciousness. It introduces just enough static that you hesitate to act with full confidence. This leads into phase 2, dissolving the old imprint. Once the pattern is seen clearly, it begins to lose power, not always instantly, not always dramatically, but like a spell breaking when its true name is spoken. This is where compassion becomes essential. Many advanced souls stumble here. They try to transcend wounds without including them. But compassion is not a detour from awakening, is the doorway through which awakening becomes embodied. Speak the limiting phrase aloud and offer it gratitude, real gratitude, not because it was correct, but because it tried to protect you. It served safety, belonging, survival. Your ego built it like a fence around a vulnerable garden. That fence was never meant to be your home, only temporary shelter now. With intentional breath, speak internally. This discord is no longer required. I choose resonance with my core frequency. Let this land not as forced affirmation, but as a decision made by your entire energetic field. This is vibrational, not just mental. You're not changing a thought. You're changing a broadcast, reprogramming an internal transmitter. This creates a meeting point. Your higher consciousness extending presence into your human experience. Your higher self is not disappointed by your fear or impatient with your pace. It is the most compassionate aspect of you, waiting patiently to be invited into the places you've kept locked. When you breathe into the imprint, instead of resisting it, you're practicing true alchemy. You're transforming density into light. You're allowing outdated contracts to expire. You're telling your nervous system, we are safe to embody truth. You're informing your entire field, we are safe to be fully seen. What unfolds in this phase is profound. You are not trying to destroy the protective mechanism. You are honoring its service and gently releasing it from duty. Imagine a loyal guard who has stood watch at your gate for decades. That guard was never your enemy. It did exactly what it was meant to do. But the war ended long ago, and the guard is exhausted, still holding a defensive stance when there is nothing left to defend against. When you approach that guard with gratitude and relieve it of its role, the relief flows both ways. That protection pattern has been waiting for permission to rest. In spiritual language, this is what repentance originally meant. Not guilt, not self-punishment, but a turning away from distortion and back toward your natural resonance. A turning away from fear-based narratives and back into your soul's actual reality. The Greek word metanoia, which later became translated as repentance, literally means to change one's mind or to move beyond the mind. It describes this exact process, transcending the mental constructs that have been filtering your perception of reality. In the third phase, your authentic voice begins to return, and it rarely arrives as dramatic confidence. Phase 3. Your authentic voice emerges more often. It comes as quiet certainty. You may notice subtle shifts, a new resonance in your throat, a gentle opening in your heart, a clarity in messages that once felt just beyond reach. You might hear yourself speaking differently. Your words feel steadier, less performative, less defensive. You may find yourself using fewer qualifiers, fewer apologies, fewer justifications, or you may simply feel an internal alignment, as if two fragmented parts of you have finally clicked into place. Nothing needs to be forced. Your voice returns naturally, like rediscovering an instrument you played beautifully years ago, and realizing it still produces perfect sound once the dust is cleared away. What matters isn't the exact words you speak, it's the frequency you carry. Your frequency is the real communication. Words are simply the clothing frequency wears. You'll feel it, a new ease, a vibrational clarity like static, finally dissolving from a radio signal. You may also encounter grief during this phase, and that grief is sacred. Grief for the times you abandoned your own knowing, grief for the years you made yourself smaller, grief for the guidance you ignored because you were terrified of being wrong. Let that grief move like water. It isn't here to punish you. It's here to purify you. This grief serves a purpose. It's the emotional release that accompanies energetic recalibration. Your body has been holding the tension of living divided from your truth. As that division begins to heal, the stored emotion needs an outlet. Let it move. Let it flow. Let it wash through you without turning it into a story about failure. Tears in this phase are not weakness. They are the sound of ice melting, the vibration of a dam breaking so the river can move freely again. Many conscious people believe they must maintain a high vibration at all times, but authentic presence vibrates higher than performance ever could. Your soul doesn't want you polished or perfect. Your soul wants you real. And truth carries a frequency the Arcturian Council can match instantly, because truth is compatible with higher dimensional communication. What we've explored so far about clearing interference is the foundation, but it's only the beginning. If you feel the pull to go deeper into the full architecture of frequency mastery, the 9 master frequencies that shift you from seeker into signal live distilled, years of quantum consciousness work into beyond the frequencies, a quantum guide to consciousness mastery. It moves you beyond clearing blockages and into the lived experience of becoming the broadcast itself, transitioning from survival-based transmissions into the ascending currents where creation becomes effortless. You'll find it linked in the pinned comment. Now here's something most people don't talk about. As your authentic voice returns, you may temporarily feel more vulnerable, not less. Why? Because you spent years building layers of armor around your truth. As those layers dissolve, there's a transitional period where you feel exposed, like a hermit crab between shells. This vulnerability isn't regression. It's evidence of growth. You're shedding armor that no longer serves you. And there's always tenderness before new skin strengthens. During this recalibration, you might speak your truth and immediately want to take it back. You might share something real and then rush to soften it, dilute it, make it more acceptable. Be gentle with yourself here. Your nervous system is relearning that truth no longer equals rejection. That process takes time. Each time you speak honestly and survive the imagined catastrophe that never actually occurs, you rewire decades of conditioning. Take a moment now and comment this phrase below. I am ready to clear the interference, not casually, as an energetic declaration to the quantum field. Your words carry power. Your intention shapes reality. When you speak this, you're not just interacting with contention, signaling to your consciousness that recalibration has begun. You're informing the Arcturian collective that you're available for clearer transmission. The field always responds to clarity of intent. Phase 4. The channel fully opens. This is the phase where the channel opens completely. Guidance, insight, and presence from the Arcturian collective or your multidimensional mentors arrive effortlessly. Not because you learned how to summon them, but because you removed the congestion that was blocking what had always been flowing. Here, everything begins to feel natural. You're no longer straining to receive. You're simply open, receptive, available. Guidance may arrive as clear direction, sudden knowing, or a deep, immovable peace. That peace is often the strongest. Confirmation, the kind that doesn't depend on external conditions. The kind that remains steady, even when physical reality feels chaotic. Because your internal signal is no longer in conflict with itself. Guidance may arrive through dreams that feel instructional. You might wake with a complete sentence in your awareness, precise, loving, transmitted. You may feel drawn to a book, a conversation, a place, with the unmistakable sense that intelligence is guiding your movement. Signs appear in the natural world. Birds at key moments. Wind responding to your inner state. Light illuminating objects as if reality itself is reflecting your alignment. At this stage, trust is no longer something you practice. It becomes your natural state. You realize that struggling for connection contradicts your starseed design. Connection is as natural to you as breathing, as roots drawing water, as a compass pointing north. You stop confusing volume with truth. You stop seeking dramatic proof. You recognize the quiet certainty that has always been your true guidance system. And you realize the Arcturian presence is not located in a distant galaxy. Frequency is never far. Frequency is always near. When your frequency matches theirs, contact is instantaneous. This is what ancient mystery schools understood. They didn't teach people to reach outward toward distant gods. They taught recognition of the divine intelligence already present within and around them. Alignment, not hierarchy. The Arcturian collective exists beyond spatial limitation. They are not billions of light years away waiting for signals to arrive. They exist in the frequency domain, and frequency is omnipresent. When you tune your consciousness to that frequency, distance collapses. Like a radio, the broadcast is already filling the space. You're not creating the music, you're adjusting the receiver. Phase 5, becoming the transmission. This is where the work moves beyond the personal. The guidance flowing through you is no longer only for your evolution. Your harmonized field begins transmitting clarity to others automatically. Your presence becomes medicine, not because you're trying to heal, but because coherence spreads naturally. People feel different around you. They may not understand why they feel calmer, clearer, safer. Why ideas arrive, why emotions release, why inspiration sparks. They may not have language for frequency, but they feel it. Your environment reorganizes around the harmony you've anchored. Some relationships dissolve not from judgment, but because they were built on shared distortion. New connections appear effortless, resonant, familiar. You may notice you can no longer tolerate certain conversations, media, or habits, not because you're superior, but because your field has grown too clear to find comfort in noise. Your creativity becomes potent. What you speak, write, build, and choose carries signal. You realize your mission isn't only what you do. Your mission is what you are. Your life becomes a beacon, not loud, not performative, but steady in truth. You walk into a room and energy shifts. Not intentionally, not consciously. Coherent fields naturally influence less coherent ones. It's physics. Like tuning forks, one vibrating at a stable frequency causes others nearby to entrain to it. People may ask what's different about you. They can't always name it, but they feel it. More grounded, more present, more real. This isn't about becoming better than anyone. It's about becoming fully yourself. And that authenticity gives others permission to do the same. If you feel this transmission touching something real within you, I invite you to subscribe not just to a channel, but to this frequency. To a space where consciousness expansion isn't just spoken about, it's lived. This is the space where spiritual ideas stop being abstract concepts and start becoming something you actually live. This is where the dialogue moves beyond surface-level motivation and enters a depth that reshapes how you exist in the world. This is a gathering of conscious beings who have made a deliberate choice to clear their internal signal and allow themselves to function as living conduits for higher intelligence. As more individuals commit to this internal clarity, the collective field begins to shift with greater intensity. This is why staying connected matters. Subscribe not just to content, but to coherence. Stay aligned, stay present, stay inside the current of this unfolding awakening. The sixth phase marks a profound realization. Receiving wisdom was never about searching outward. Phase 6, restoring your innate resonance, reveals that nothing external was ever missing. This understanding is pivotal. It brings an end to endless spiritual seeking. It dissolves the constant hunger for validation from teachers, guides, or systems outside yourself. The need for approval fades because recognition arises from within. The Arcturian Council no longer feels distant or unreachable. They are no longer perceived as somewhere else. They are recognized as present within your own energetic field, woven into your frequency. You stop asking questions like, "Will I receive a sign?" Instead, you begin living as the sign itself. Guidance becomes embodied through how you move, how you speak, how you choose. Spirituality stops being something reserved for meditation, cushions, or ceremonial moments. It becomes a continuous tone that hums beneath everything you do. You begin to understand that the most powerful form of channeling isn't sitting still and receiving dramatic cosmic revelations. The deepest transmission is revealed through how you navigate ordinary moments with extraordinary alignment. It shows up in how you speak when you're exhausted, and how you respond when you're triggered, in the choices you make when no one is watching. At this stage, the boundary between the spiritual and the human dissolves entirely. There is no separation left. They merge into a single lived experience. Your higher self stops feeling like a distant goal or an idealized version of who you could be someday. It becomes a constant companion, present in real time. You begin catching yourself before betraying your own truth. Guidance no longer arrives only in hindsight. It rises within you in the moment, clear and unmistakable. And you notice something else. Arcturian wisdom often arrives not as elaborate cosmic language, but as simple, grounded instruction. Rest now, drink water, apologize, create, leave, begin, forgive, wait, speak. The cosmic becomes practical. The mystical becomes usable. This is true integration, and this is where many spiritual seekers become confused. There is an expectation that higher guidance must always be complex, multidimensional, and intellectually impressive. But often, the most advanced wisdom is radically simple. Your higher consciousness knows precisely what you need in each moment. And sometimes that wisdom is telling you to take a nap rather than chase another download. Sometimes it's guiding you toward a difficult conversation instead of another meditation session. Sometimes it's urging you to create the thing now, not wait for more clarity about the thing. The Arcturians understand that evolution happens through embodied action, not awareness alone. You can have the most transcendent mystical experiences imaginable, but if they don't translate into how you live your daily life, they remain abstract concepts. Integration is the act of bringing frequency into form. It is the process of making the invisible visible. It is living what you receive. Then comes the final threshold. Phase 7. Remembering your true mission. At this point, remembering your mission is no longer a mental exercise. It's not something you solve through analysis or logic. It emerges naturally once your field is clear enough to hold it. You begin to recognize that every blockage you encountered was actually a portal. Every moment of discord was an invitation to realign. The places where you felt most stuck were often the exact coordinates of your liberation. The fears that haunted you weren't obstacles. They were guardians standing at the doorway of your greatest gift. a deep realization settles in. You are the clear channel you've been searching for. Your voice and the council's voice are no longer separate. They move in harmony, interwoven in service to Earth's awakening. Life starts to feel guided, but not in a frantic or pressured way. There is no urgency, only purpose. You stop chasing your mission. Instead, your mission begins finding you. Opportunities appear. Synchronicities align. Invitations arrive. Inner certainty stabilizes. None of it feels forced. You begin to understand why you entered the family you did, why you were born into the culture you experienced. The challenges were never random punishment. They were curriculum. Refinement, like gold heated until impurities rise to the surface. Like a blade tempered until it can hold light without warping. In this phase, you release the belief that your mission must look impressive from the outside. You stop assuming it has to be public, famous, or widely recognized to be valid. You realize that mission is frequency first. Some are here to teach openly. Some are here to hold families together through love. Some are here to anchor peace inside chaotic workplaces. Some are here to break generational trauma. Some are here to create art encoded with information. Some are here simply to be the one person who refuses to abandon their heart. Mission is not always loud, but when it's authentic, it is always powerful. Your mission might be raising children free from the interference patterns you carried. It might be bringing coherence into environments that desperately need it. It might be creating beauty in a world that has forgotten how to see. It might be holding your frequency steady while everything around you attempts to pull you into chaos. None of these missions are lesser. Frequency does not measure impact by audience size. It measures impact through authenticity and coherence. Here is what so many forget. Your disconnection was never punishment. It was never failure. It was a sacred pause, a chosen delay in remembrance, so the return could be felt deeply. Some pauses are gestational. Some silences are holy. Even stars experience seasons where clouds obscure their light, yet the light never stops shining. The Arcturian Council has always been close, never further than your own clear heart, never further than a single conscious breath, never further than one honest moment. Every time you felt muted or lost in fog was part of a larger orchestration, a symphony building toward clarity. Even the static had purpose. It taught discernment. It taught patience. It taught the difference between mental noise and soul truth. It taught you that knowing cannot be permanently outsourced. The interference was not malicious. It was design. And because you experienced disconnection, reconnection becomes sacred. Because you felt blocked, transmission, clear communication becomes precious. Contrast creates appreciation. Struggle creates strength. Fog creates reverence for clarity. Now, as the final distortion clears, you are not gaining something new. You are restoring what was always within you. Your authentic voice, aligned with mission, encoded with galactic intelligence, tuned to higher purpose. It rings through you like a struck bell producing pure tone. It does not argue. It does not defend itself. It simply resonates, and everything false begins to tremble when you live in your true tone. You don't need to convince anyone you are connected to Source. Your life becomes the evidence. Your energy carries the signature. Your peace provides the confirmation. The moment you stop punishing yourself for seasons of confusion, you realize the confusion was never the absence of light. It was the invitation to become your own lighthouse. And from this cleared channel, something extraordinary becomes accessible. You begin to touch what the Arcturians call vertical time. Linear time moves horizontally past, present, future, in sequence. Vertical time exists simultaneously, all moments coexisting in the eternal now. When your channel clears, you gain access to information from future timelines' potentials that already exist in the quantum field, but haven't manifested yet in physical reality. This is how prophecy functions. This is how precognition works. This is how knowing arrives without logic. The Arcturian collective primarily exists in vertical time. They perceive all timelines at once. When they transmit, they are not sending messages forward through time. They are inviting you to expand into the dimension where time collapses into presence. This is why their guidance can feel paradoxical. They are showing potentials beyond linear cause and effect. When interference dominates, you're locked into horizontal time, reaction, sequence, limitation. But when the channel clears, vertical awareness activates. You begin knowing before evidence appears. You feel future resonances calling you forward. This is part of your starseed design. You came to bridge dimensions, to bring vertical awareness into horizontal reality, to demonstrate that consciousness is not bound by sequence. But this requires a clear signal. If you feel the call, practice this before sleep tonight. I now clear all discord from my energetic field. My authentic voice is harmonic with cosmic source. I am ready to receive and embody higher wisdom, and so it is. Speak it slowly, not as a demand, but as consent. Let your body hear it. Let your nervous system receive the instruction. Let your subconscious accept the shift. If you wake during the night, place a hand on your heart or throat, and breathe as if listening to a broadcast that has always been present, because it has the most powerful. Transmissions often arrive in the liminal space between waking and sleeping, where the mind releases control and the soul speaks through light, symbol, and sensation. This works because you are speaking directly to the subconscious in the language it understands best. This is not about logic, not about debate, not about analysis or mental persuasion. This is declaration, a statement of intent, an energetic command issued from presence. Your subconscious mind does not argue. It does not question. It does not negotiate. It responds to clear instruction. When you speak these words with full awareness, you are giving your entire internal system permission to recalibrate. You are authorizing the release of outdated programming. You are installing new operational instructions at the deepest level of your being. The timing of this practice matters. That's why doing it before sleep is essential. As you move toward sleep, your brainwave state naturally shifts. You pass from beta, active thinking and analysis, into alpha, relaxed awareness. From alpha, you move into theta, deep meditative consciousness. Finally, you descend into delta, unconscious sleep. Theta is the gateway. Theta is the doorway where direct access to subconscious programming becomes available. In theta, the critical mind goes offline. The part of you that filters, doubts, evaluates, and resists temporarily disengages. Whatever you impress into consciousness during this threshold state integrates deeply. It bypasses resistance. It embeds itself directly into the fertile subconscious soil, where real transformation occurs. Many people make the mistake of doing spiritual work only when fully awake, mentally alert, and intellectually engaged. But the conscious mind is actually the least powerful aspect of you when it comes to creating lasting change. Your subconscious runs approximately 95% of your life. It governs your autonomic nervous system, your habitual responses, your automatic reactions, and your deeply ingrained beliefs. If you want to dissolve the interference pattern, you must access the level where that pattern is stored. The theta state before sleep grants you that access. Theta state before sleep grants you that access. And if you wake during the night in that half-awake, half-asleep state, don't label it as inconvenient insomnia. Recognize it for what it is, another opening. You are back in the liminal zone. The veil between conscious awareness and subconscious reception is thin. This is when Arcturian transmissions can reach you with the least distortion. When this happens, place one hand on your heart or your throat and simply breathe. Listen without effort. Feel without expectation. Sense without forcing meaning. Don't try to receive anything. Just be available, open, receptive. Some of the clearest guidance you will ever receive arrives in these in-between moments. when the mind loosens its grip and the soul speaks directly. People often ask what the interference phrase actually is. What are the specific words creating the blockage? And the truth is, it's different for everyone. It's shaped by your personal history, your specific wounds, your unique soul agreements. For some, the phrase is, "I'm not special enough to receive direct guidance." For others, "Who am I to think I know better than the experts?" For others, "I've been wrong before, so I can't trust myself now." For others, "If I speak my truth, people will abandon me." The exact wording matters less than the frequency beneath it. At its core, the interference pattern is always some variation of self-doubt disguised as wisdom. The essential message is always the same. Don't trust yourself. Don't trust your knowing. Don't trust your perception. Don't trust your guidance. Don't trust your frequency. That message gets customized using your personal history, so it feels believable. This is why identifying your specific version is important. Someone else's interference phrase may not resonate with you at all, but when you encounter your own, your body will recognize it immediately. You'll feel it in your gut, in your chest, in the familiar tightening or heaviness that accompanies that belief. That's how you know you've found it, not through intellectual reasoning, but through somatic recognition. Your body knows because your body has been carrying it before moving forward. Pause and participate in what's forming here. This is community activation and collective field alignment. Drop one clear intention in the comments. Something honest, something real. Then find someone else's intention and respond with encouragement or energy. This is not passive consumption. This is collective alignment. Conscious intention multiplies exponentially when it connects with other conscious intention. If something in this transmission resonated in your body, don't keep it contained. Someone in your sphere is waiting for exactly this activation. Share it with them. And if you felt that subtle inner nudge, subscribe to this channel. Stay in the frequency. You're not just watching videos. You're participating in consciousness expansion. This is your space, and we're only beginning. Comment one word below that captures the energy you're choosing to embody moving forward. One word that represents the frequency you're committing to hold. Not a word that sounds spiritual. Not a word that impresses. The word that is actually true for you right now. Maybe it's clarity. Maybe it's courage. Maybe it's trust. Maybe it's sovereignty. Maybe it's truth. Whatever arises, speak it into the field. Write it as your energetic signature, as your declaration to the quantum field of what you are choosing to become. This matters more than you realize. When you speak a word of power into a collective field, you are not just leaving a comment. You are participating in a group activation. Every word spoken by every conscious being here creates a resonance pattern. Those patterns weave together. They amplify. They generate what the Arcturians call a coherence field, a zone of consciousness where individual frequencies harmonize into something greater than their sum. This is how collective awakening actually works, not through a single teacher broadcasting to passive listeners, but through a community of awakened beings contributing their unique frequency to a shared field. The more beings clear their channels and speak their truth, the stronger the field becomes. The stronger the field becomes, the easier it is for others to entrain to that frequency. This is exponential growth, not linear, not additive. Exponential. One clear channel helps two others clear. Those two help four. For help 8. The acceleration builds. This is how consciousness evolution happens, not slowly over millennia, but rapidly. When coherent group fields reach critical mass, you are not here by accident. You did not encounter this transmission randomly. Your consciousness was guided here because you are part of this activation wave. You are one of the beings who came here to clear interference and become a transmission point for higher frequency. Not everyone watching will recognize that, but you do. You can feel it now. The recognition, the resonance, the knowing that this is why you're here. The Arcturian collective is aware of this moment. not as surveillance, but as higher dimensional awareness, naturally attuned to significant energetic shifts. When a group of beings simultaneously clears interference and raises frequency, it creates a measurable shift in the planetary field. The Arcturians track these shifts. They support them. They amplify them. They send stabilizing transmissions to anchor the new frequency into physical reality. So when you speak your word of power in the comments, understand this: you are not participating in a platform algorithm. You are contributing to a planetary activation. You are adding your unique frequency to a collective transmission that is reshaping Earth's consciousness. The interference pattern is not just personal, it is collective. Humanity has been operating under a species-wide interference that keeps consciousness locked in survival mode, unable to access its multidimensional potential. That collective distortion expresses itself as individuals. When enough individuals clear their personal interference, the collective pattern begins to dissolve. This is the great work. This is the mission you agreed to before incarnating. If this transmission spoke to you, don't scroll past it. Respond. Amplify it. Leave a super thanks if you feel called. Every act of support helps this reach the next person who needs it. Every share expands the field. Every comment strengthens the community, beings choosing clarity over confusion, truth over comfort, authentic voice over protective silence. This is how the world changes, not through grand revolutions, but through millions of individuals clearing their channels and transmitting truth instead of distortion. Each person identifying the phrase, blocking their signal. Each person choosing release. Each person committing to coherence. The Arcturian Council is ready. Your higher self is ready. Your guides are ready. The only remaining question is, are you ready? Ready to identify your interference pattern. Ready to release it with compassion. Ready to reclaim your authentic voice? Ready to become the clear channel you came here to be? Ready to join the community anchoring new frequency on this planet? Ready to fulfill the mission you chose before arrival? The answer is already yes. You wouldn't be here otherwise. Your consciousness would not have sustained attention through this transmission if it wasn't recognizing truth at its deepest level. Now, it's simply about action. Do the practice. Speak the words. Make the declaration. Clear the channel, and watch as reality reorganizes around your new frequency. The time is now. The moment is here. The transmission is complete. What you do next determines everything. Choose clarity. Choose truth. Choose your authentic voice. Clear the interference, and allow the Arcturian collective to flood your awareness with the guidance that was always present, waiting for the one thing to be removed. If this activated something in you, return to it tomorrow morning to anchor the frequency before your day begins, or share it with someone navigating their own interference. That act reinforces your clarity while accelerating theirs. Welcome home to your frequency. Welcome back to your truth. Welcome to the clear channel you have always been. Now that you understand how to clear the interference blocking your connection to the Arcturian Council, you are ready to discover the judgment they have reached about you, and the extraordinary role you are being prepared to fulfill. The Arcturian Council has reached a judgment, and understanding this verdict will reveal why clearing your channel now was essential for what is unfolding in your life. The transmission continues in your life. The transmission continues.